to Cooper Talk.
Welcome to Cooper Talk. I'm your host, Steve Cooper, and I'm only as hip as my guest. I got to tell you, we have a very, very talented gentleman on the show today. I'm excited to have him on. He's been with some great bands. He was with the Replacements, Guns N' Roses, the list goes on. And his latest effort, Tommy Stinson's Cowboys and the Campfire, the album Wronger, comes out June 2nd, which I listened to, and I really enjoyed. And my guest is Tommy Stinson. How you doing, Tommy?
Doing good, thank you. Thank you.
So, how did Cowboys and the Campfire come about?
Well, it kind of happened when I moved to Philly. I moved to Philly about 14 years ago or so. My at the time girlfriend and I, we were had a little baby, and we were moving closer to her family in Media, PA, and her Uncle Chip and I became really good friends, just kind of fast friends, as they say. And from there, we started writing together. We started writing stuff right out of the gate, and I basically finished that my solo record at the time, which would have been One Man Mutiny in His Basement. And he and I penned couple things on that record, as well as the Bash and Pop record that followed that. And, just kind of writing stuff. And so in between tours and stuff, he and I would get in the band and go play shows for fun. And, and we were, funny enough, we were videotaping a lot of it because our shenanigans were becoming kind of a thing. But we just kept writing. And so cut to about 6 years ago, we were in Austin, Texas, and John Doe had just moved down there. We had him play on what would be the first 5 songs on the record that we recorded, which would have been Hey Man, Karma's Bitch, Fall Apart Together, We Ain't, and Mr. Wrong. All those songs were done right then with him, pretty much live in the studio. And, after that, we just kept writing and working on stuff in between his schedule of stuff and my schedule of stuff. And, finally had a record's worth of junk to put out. And so there you have it. Cowboys and Campfire, Wronger.
Now, who were some of your influences on it? Because, it has some faster, as you say, Cowboys country songs and some slower songs. It's a really good mix. I mean, did you have any influences when you guys were writing this?
Not really. Our joint influences are kind of all over the place. I mean, Chip's background was kind of the guitar slinger du jour in Philly, in the 80s and that. He'd play with all kinds of people blowing through town in the country markets and things like that. Around the same time, the Replacements were coming through town, playing all the clubs in Philly there. So we both come from similar backgrounds, but slightly different in that he had more of the country background. I had more of the rock.
So the album comes out. Now you're going to go on tour. How great is that? Because, I know you do a lot of backyard shows. You do other shows. I know you're doing a backyard show in Riverton, New Jersey, which isn't too far from me. How did you get into the backyard shows? Because I think the backyard show is such a cool thing because people can get up close and personal and really see you at what you do great.
It comes from my lack of want to try and, predict what I want to do next year. Everyone's booking shows and clubs and stuff like a year out, these days. And I can't really get on board with that. I kind of, if I got a new record coming out, I'm like, yeah, let's figure out what to do a month from now, a month and a half from now at best. Just can't plan that far ahead. And I kind of prefer to do things on my own terms. I don't, doing the club scene or anything other than that. I've done all of it. And the intimate gigs where I can just kind of go and do my own thing as I want fits me better. It's a better fit. It's a least amount of pain in the ass. Because I like to play shows, and I like to get up in front of people, and I like to write. I just don't like the nonsense that surrounds it, travel wise or bullshit wise.
So you've been doing this a long time, a very long time. how has your writing process changed over the years? Because you started so young, so I'm sure your writing has gravitated differently, but how has it changed?
Question. I don't have a real good answer for that, actually. How? I don't know that it has all that much. I don't have any particular way of doing anything when it comes to writing songs. And I don't know that it's ever changed. I think I've just kind of pick an instrument in front of me that starts, start hacking on a melody, and I'll start singing along, giving them whatever inspiration's in my head. I mean, I don't really have a way of doing it per se. So it's kind of still, it's always somewhat completely fresh to me in that I don't know what I'm doing, you know?
Now, tell me how you got started in music. It was a very young age, and younger than most people. I think when you started, I was like that age, I had a paper route. I mean, when was the first time you picked up an instrument?
Well, I picked up, I think I was probably playing upright bass or saxophone, baritone saxophone first in grade school. That would have been right probably just about before Bob showed me how to play bass, or around that time. I was playing, I think I played a little bit of baritone sax in fifth grade, and then picked up the upright bass after that for a minute. And then Bob showed me how to play electric bass.
Now,
yes, I was 11, however you are when you're like 10, 11 in there.
So you're 11. Now, when do you actually start playing with Replacements? How old were you when you started gigging with them?
When we started with, probably 13 is probably right where the Replacements. That's when the name was officially the Replacements, I think, about 13.
Now, what was that like, being that age in a band with older people? I mean, I know it's your older brother, but it must have been something where, as I said, 13, most people are in school, doing whatever. I mean, what was it like for you?
It was funny. I mean, it was, it gave me something to do. It kept me out of trouble. I was getting a lot of trouble up until that point. It was, most kids get into sports and stuff after school. I just happened to get into a rock band. And so, that was kind of my after school program, really.
So tell me, as Replacements are developing, how are you developing? I mean, you're a young guy, you're out at clubs, you're performing. I mean, what does that do to your psyche as a young teen?
I grew up quick. In a lot of ways that, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds don't need to grow up. Because my mom worked a lot, I was left alone a lot. And I remember kind of, rehearsing during those times. And normally, before my brother showed me how to play bass and stuff, with my mom working all the time, I got in a lot of trouble doing stuff on my own. So having Bob there and, being in a band, basically, it kept me from those things. So it's actually, just gave me an outlet, for some of that, my youthful energy and all that stuff, and it was different. It was weird. Other kids are playing sports, and here I am smoking pot, playing bass with my brother,
So you guys had some crazy escapades on the road. Where did that come from? I mean, for just because of boredom, or just because you could do it, or where did that come from?
I think we were all, total malcontents. I mean, socially, oddballs and stuff like that. So I think a lot of people that made that, that start rock and roll bands and stuff like that, a lot of them come from the same kind of thing. They are kind of socially awkward, or, stunted in some ways, or, not able to deal with society on society's terms in a way, I suppose. But I think we all kind of had that a bit.
Now, as the band starts getting bigger, what does that do for you? Does that give you confidence? Does that sit there and make you feel more of a success? Or are you still feeling, young and a little bit malcontent?
You know, a little bit of all of that. I mean, when you grow up a certain way and we evolved. I think all of us evolved in a certain way. And we got to a point where, you know, we'd evolved together as much as we could towards the end and needed to kind of bust out and do our own thing. It was pretty apparent that Paul wanted to do that before we even made All Shook Down. So we knew going into that record that was going to pretty much be probably the last record, and that we were all going to kind of bust out and do our own things after that. And I think, you know, going from a group setting to a sort of a solo setting, I think we all probably felt the pangs of that one, but in a good way. In some ways bad, but overall, I mean, you kind of grow up quick, and you kind of okay, so it's a different scenario here with when you're running the show by yourself as opposed to four guys kind of working at the same thing and people around you and all that kind of stuff.
What was it like when you would write with Paul? I mean, because did you guys both have a lot of input, or what was that? Was it a give and take?
We kind of slammed things out. We didn't really sit and get to we would play things until we felt they sounded right. We didn't really. There was not a lot of verbalizing it a whole much, except to try this or try that. I mean, we kind of went by feeling a lot of it.
Now, eventually you end up with Guns N' Roses. How did that come about?
Well, kind of by accident, really. I meant to go out and just kind of audition and play drums with my buddy Josh Freeze. And then I ended up auditioning, and they ended up hiring me, and it just kind of all happened in a funny, quick kind of way. Kind of ran by the seat of my pants on that one.
Now, all of a sudden, now you're doing, there's huge stadiums. I mean, what is that like for a performer? Because Guns N' Roses is nationally, international stars. Is that grueling? Because every night, you have to get on stage. I mean, it's more than probably just being the life of a rock star. There's probably a lot of work involved.
Yeah, I mean, for the 3-hour set that we have fun playing and that everyone sees us having fun playing, there is another, 18, hours of the day that are, a lot of work, a lot of traveling, a lot of, sitting around airports or hotel rooms, wondering what to do with yourself. It's a hard gig. Not as glamorous as everyone seems to think it is by the way it looks on the outside, hence with my new life here, I like to kind of travel a lot lighter than that and a lot simpler. Like, I went from that, done all that stuff, all those different things. So now I like to travel. I don't like to be in a car more than a couple, 3 hours at a time, but that's manageable for me. Would I ever go back to that? Probably not. I probably wouldn't go back to, 22-hour flight to Australia regularly, that kind of stuff, or, that kind of thing. So, it's a beating. But as I say that, the way I do things now doesn't require a lot of that. I get to call it on my own. And that's why I'm doing it. I mean, at my age, I've been able to do a lot of different things. I don't know that I want to do a lot of those things ever again. So, here we go. Got a new record, and I do it my own way and see what people think.
Tell me, you've been around for a long time. Tell me a few good Replacement stories and a few good Soul Asylum stories, because I love hearing stories from people that it's happened to.
Yeah, I'm kind of out of anecdotes about the Mets at the moment, but you'd have to ask me something more poignant than that so I could wrap my head around what you're getting at.
What was the party life like? I mean, for everyone says the rock and roll lifestyle. I mean, what was the rock and roll lifestyle to you, and when did you start saying this is too much for me?
Well, when did I start saying it was too much for me? I never really did say it was too much for me until I just told you that now. I mean, looking back on stuff, I mean, I've gone through, I've weathered a lot of the different things, um, from growing up in that, all those different groups and stuff like that. Um, you just get kind of burnt out from all that. You get to a point where it's like, nah, I want to do it simpler. I still love writing songs. I still like playing in front of people. I don't like traveling a whole lot anymore, but it's part of the thing you got to do if you want to get out and promote yourself and, put out records and stuff like that. So I kind of manage it the best I can without getting bogged down with it all and without killing myself. Don't like to play too many shows in a particular month. Got to have the kind of good balance. Still working on the balance thing, but yeah, trying to simplify things, if you will.
Now, what will your shows be like with Cowboys and the Campfire and these upcoming tours? Will you play just the whole new album, or what will your set list be like?
The set will have a little bit of everything that I've done solo, after the Replacements. I don't play Replacement songs. I don't play Guns songs. I don't play Soul Asylum songs. I play stuff off my solo records or Bash and Bop records or the whole Cowboys and the Campfire record pretty much. Maybe a cover or two in there. You never know. Never know exactly what's going to happen with that. But, yeah, for the most part, it's a little bit of a grab bag of all the stuff I've worked on over the years.
All right, man. Well, I want to thank you for coming on. I appreciate you taking the time. And your website is TommyStinson.com. People check them out. Yeah. Go to my website, coopertalk.net. You can find over 950 episodes. Email me at coopertalk.net. And I'm Steve Cooper, as only as hip as my guest. Don't forget, drink your water, eat your vegetables, take your vitamins, and I'll talk to you guys next time.